first came on a footpaths expedition, I think it was 2006. I retired from my job in 2004, and I've been a member of the Friends of Mount Athos over quite a number of years, and I'd read about these footpath expeditions, and I thought, when I retire I will have time to do that sort of work and revisit the Holy Mountain, which I hadn't been to for many years. So I first came in 2008, and I've been coming on the expeditions ever since. When I first came to the Holy Mountain, it made a huge impression upon me, and it has continued to do so. And I think my association with it has grown over the years. When I first came, I think I was very surprised to find what a poor state the footpaths were in, and how little used in particular. I mean, obviously the footpaths expedition had done huge work in reopening them, but that didn't seem to have had much effect on the number of pilgrims who used them. And going out and working all day long and perhaps meeting one or two pilgrims, if any, on a path. So I remember a long conversation with John Arnell about how to make, how to encourage pilgrims to use the paths, where there seemed to be two barriers. One was that nobody knew where the paths were in terms of maps and descriptions, and secondly, that the signposting was very unreliable. Some paths were well signed, but many of the paths, in particular the ones that we had been working on, were not. So we developed a program, if you like, of both describing the paths and acquiring some signposts. And I took upon myself the job of preparing these descriptions, because in the outside world I'd been on a number of holidays where we had followed path descriptions in order to enjoy a holiday. And from there it has proceeded, so that each year perhaps we add one or two more paths to our library of descriptions, and we check them every year to make sure that, or as many as we can every year, to make sure that the paths descriptions that we already have are as accurate as they can be. And every year we find that somebody has built a new road here, or dug a hole there, or put a water tank somewhere else, which has altered where paths go. And the same thing with the signposts, that we have, I seem to have become the person that decides where signposts are required, and which ones we should order, in line with how much we can afford, of course. And we do this through the good offices of the Holy Monastery of Kutlumusyu, whose signs we have tended to emulate. And they are based on an earlier wooden sign, which you can still see in various places on the Holy Mountain, with these white lettering on a red background. Indeed we have, though personally, apart from commenting on the accuracy of the map, I can't receive any credit for actually doing the work. Our New Zealand team member, who came for the first time last year, Peter Howarth, turns out to be something of an expert in map making, and in the use of the global positioning system that we use in order to in developing the distances when we're describing paths, and of course in developing the tracks that go onto a map. And Peter Howarth has spent most of the last year, I think, since he was here before, researching into the available existing maps of the Holy Mountain, and combining them together in such a way as to get the best of all possible combinations. And so he has now produced a map which we are, for the first time this year, sort of making publicly available to monasteries and to anybody, I think, who wishes to have a look at it. We know that it has a number of inaccuracies in it, and it'll go on having inaccuracies that will need to be corrected. But that is one of our major projects now, but it will be at least another year, I think, before the map is in a, let's say, a reliable state. Well, we've now built up, I think, so that we have described well over 20 paths. I don't know the exact number, but it's like 24. And we describe them in both directions, so that there must be somewhere about sort of 45-ish path descriptions, which are available on the Friends of Mount Athos website in English. And it is relatively easy to go to, if you like, an index page, which which summarizes the paths. In other words, it says how long they are, how long it takes to walk them, and what condition they're in. And from each statement about each path, it's then possible to link to the path description itself, which can then be printed off or downloaded to some electronic device for individual use. And these things are entirely free for use by anybody in order to aid their pilgrimage to the Holy Mountain. The display on the website of the path description itself is in, I think, HTML, but there is the printable version is a PDF file, exactly.
Which can also be done.
Which can, yes, so having access to the HTML file, there is a link to the PDF version for printing. And I should add that we are currently in the process of, one of our team members is a native Greek and has translated, I think, about 3 of the descriptions now into Greek. And I hope that the plan is that he will translate, I hope, all of them, and that these will also be available on the Friends of Mount Athos website in Greek, so that Greek pilgrims will have them in their native language. I think I regard my visit to the Holy Mountain as, if you like, my annual retreat from my life outside. My previous visit to the Holy Mountain was a very long time ago, and while it left a very deep impression upon me, needless to say, a lot of the detail was quite, has faded with time. But since coming on the footpath expeditions, I think what has really happened is that I've grown to, I've learnt more of both of the monastic life and of the Orthodox faith, and I've benefited hugely from the discussions I have both within the team, where we have a huge variety of people who have come here with different backgrounds, with different, sort of different paths through their lives, and I have benefited greatly from the discussions I have had with them, and equally, or perhaps more so, from getting to know a number of the fathers on the Holy Mountain, both in this monastery and in other monasteries. But perhaps I should add, I'm an Anglican and have been, I guess, all my life. And I don't regard the barriers between the different denominations of Christianity as, it seems to me these barriers shouldn't exist. And I like to keep an open mind about these things. I mean, I think my gratitude really to all the Holy Fathers, but to the abbot and the fathers of this monastery and of the other monasteries that I've been to, by the way that we've just been accepted into your lives. I mean, I know that you receive a steady stream of Orthodox pilgrims, each day. But the way that you've gone out of your way to make us feel welcome, to do all sorts of things which, in order to support us, which can only be an inconvenience really to you, and generally the huge welcome and hospitality that we've had, and what you've given of yourselves to each member of the expedition and to the expedition as a whole. It's in its entirety.